Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy. I'm your host Omar, and uh, I guess forgive a little bit of the somber tone. The markets are down again as of right now, between depending on what index you're looking at, 3 to almost 6%. So between yesterday and today, the markets are down between 6 to 10%. Uh, That is at a 10%, that's recession level downs. Um, and if you're wondering, like, what does it mean? I don't have anything to worry about. Like, we're fine. My team performs. Um, we're seeing a lot of, customers coming in. You might get a bump in business on the short term right now because everybody is scrambling to, make changes and decisions before all this goes into effect, if it does go into effect, right? Uh, because I mean, if you're in the wireless industry, you're talking about iPhones. The numbers I've heard is based on current configurations, the average cost of an iPhone would go from its lowest to about $1,500 based off of, the imposed tariffs. Um, and obviously, if they were to come here into the States, I was actually just watching this too. You're talking about the average cost of a iPhone manufactured in the US, produced in the US, and assembled in the US would be about $3,500. Um, that kind of gives you an idea. For the wireless carriers, obviously they're not going to want to carry that kind of balance on their sheets either. Uh, so it becomes a question of like what is going to happen for people in appliances, AV world. The majority of that stuff gets manufactured. There's a lot of components that get manufactured abroad and brought in. Some of the best speakers are actually produced outside of the US. They have components produced here, and they might be assembled here, but parts come from across the world because, once again, the manufacturing process that they have, because all of this has been pretty much in place for almost a century, right? 80, 100 years, depending on where you're getting the material from. So it's going to be more than interesting times. And being a leader in this type of space is not going to be for the faint of heart. Um, there are a lot of people that are in leadership roles that don't realize what's going to happen. And when things happen, to get back into a leadership role is not going to be the easiest thing because you're going to have a different type of mindset. You may not want to either, uh, because of not being able to know what to do, right? And once again, everything I do comes down to training development, focusing on the basics, things that become repeatable and increasing the baseline. But in the short term, the uncertainty of things is where you as a leader need to step in and help your team understand that, yeah, things aren't going to be the best. Things are going to suck. There is no sugarcoating it. Okay. If you sugarcoat it, you're setting your team up for failure. If you avoid the conversation, you're setting your team up for failure. If you decide not to plan and have something in place, you're planning to fail, right? Failure right now to plan is planning to fail. So the question becomes, what is your game plan? What happens when you see 20 to 40% less foot traffic because the additional cost of just basic goods, right? We're already complaining about the cost of eggs. But what about when everything else goes up in price, right? What happens when they have to decide between, do I want to spend on this, what becomes a luxury, or save for basic necessities? That's kind of the world we're in right now. That's what you as a leader need to understand and help your team understand too, that we're kind of in a world of suck right now. It just is. Okay. Business is done around the concept that there is no rug pull, there is no crybaby at the wheel who gets hurt by every single thing that's said. and doesn't have a tough skin to do business, right? Um, and nobody with a backbone to tell them that they're fucking up. Hey, that's kind of where we're at. So a lot of businesses, obviously right now you're hearing it's just the iceberg. So once again, unless things come either later today or tomorrow, and there's going to be a pause, there's going to be a relief in tariffs, like it's going to suck. I've seen some pseudo gurus talking about, well, that's just going to bring production back to the US. It's not going to bring production back to the US. It takes time to be able to bring full production back. And once again, to be able to source the materials that we need, including raw materials, that's still not going to be all US based. There's always going to be a cost of increase, plus the cost of additional labor, right? That's kind of what we're looking at. So it is a somber conversation to have with people. Um, like I said the other day, right now you should be having meetings, scheduled meetings with your teams, uh, to kind of go over like what is happening, what is going on. Because if you're going in and you're just, bitching at your people like, why are sales down? Without an understanding of the macroeconomics of what's happening and why people are not wanting to go and shop. For instance, big box retailer Target, right? They thought the whole DEI thing was just, it'll blow over after a week. 8 straight weeks of declining sales, right? 8 straight weeks, almost a full quarter's worth of declining sales. Hope you guys know most companies can barely afford to have one bad month of declining sales, right? So um, that's kind of where we're heading. It's I think the closest thing I can think of, not even the 2020 level, I would probably say the 2007, 2008 level, um, is kind of what we're looking at. Because remember, 2020, the reason why it nosedived and came back up, whether you like it or not, it was socialist actions that brought funds from the government back into the private sector, uh, to boost the economy. When the government spends money, the economy moves. When the government stops spending money and levies high taxes, the economy will stop, right? Uh, when the government spends and invests money and levies the appropriate taxes on the appropriate classes, right, on the appropriate income brackets, prosperity will happen. So for all y'all people talking about, make America great again back, 40s, 50s, and 60s, you're talking about income tax rates of almost 90% for the top income earners, right? Uh, which, hey, I honestly don't think that's a bad idea because that's what makes the government spend more and have more available for us as people, as a population, right? Uh, so it's gonna be an interesting time, to see, exactly what happens. If all of this does push through and does move forward, uh, right, and there is going to be a large percentage of not just jobs lost, but also businesses that will go under. There will be businesses that will make it because they'll have the wherewithal to be able to have the funds available on the back end, stash to be able to push through. Typically, for y'all that don't know, a recession typically lasts about 6 to 9 months. Once it's actually been adequately assessed. Right now, the conversation is we are heading into a recession, but we need at least, I believe it was 2 quarters below a certain threshold in order for us to be in a recession, right? And it typically takes about 6 to 9 months, so about 2 to 3 quarters to get out of a recession. And then once we're out, it doesn't mean things are good. It means it's back to the road of recovery, which will take years. So all the damage that's been done has been done, and then we're going to go from there. What does that mean for you as a leader? It means that you're going to have to do more with less. This is what I was talking about the other day, where right now is not a time where you want to be talking about, it's going to be the opportunity to let go of people, because you will let go of people and you will not be able to bring people on board to replace what was let go. You're going to be asked to move people around, to have floaters, right? That can go from location to location to assist. Uh, you will be covering shifts, right? As a DM, you're going to be doing a lot. So if you got 8+ locations, 10, 11, 12 locations, uh, it would be cheaper to bring somebody else in and split your district than it would be to allow you to have, additional personnel. Uh, that's kind of where some companies may go, right? Because then at smaller focuses, the DMs can put more pressure essentially, right? And can be more nimble in the way that they move, in the way that they operate. Whereas where you have more locations, you're not able to, one, visit all locations, two, execute appropriately during, these kind of times. When everything is great, when everything is fine and dandy, and the economy is booming, you don't need as many people at leadership roles really to oversee that many locations because they're running adequately, they're moving forward. Uh, and also keep in mind there are certain areas where if this was your more traditional recession, you wouldn't have to worry about, the macroeconomics of everything because it'd be a little bit more insulated. So for instance, here in the Houston area, San Antonio is probably one of the best cities to live in where you don't have to worry about general recessions, especially when it comes to oil, energy, because San Antonio is not really a big producer of energy. They're a college and military town, or city, right? That's one of their biggest things, as opposed to like Dallas and Houston, which is very big in the energy sector. So when there is something that affects that particular sector, those two cities are affected dramatically. San Antonio is not. And that's kind of where you're going at. Things are going to be a little bit different though, because with the military not spending as much, with the federal government not putting out as much into education, right? Higher education, regular education, period. That also means towns that have in cities that were previously um, insulated from these kind of movements aren't going to have that luxury. Um, Something more similar and akin to, once again, the 2007, 2008 market crash, the housing crash, right? Pretty much everywhere and anywhere was affected. Some areas worse than others. Uh, Bigger cities more so than smaller towns, right? But it still affected everybody. Uh, and that's where we're at. That is the reality of the matter. And as a leader, if you're not having those conversations, prepping your team that we need to work harder right now at training and developing to focus on the basics to make sure that we are spending more time with the people walking through our doors because we're not going to have as many opportunities coming through the doors. We're going to have less chances at being able to hit what we need to hit. That means you're going to have less chances to make your commission. Okay. At the end of the day, salespeople, that is how we make our money. We're in sales because one, we like to talk with people for the most part. Listen, I'm an introvert. You may not realize that I am actually a very big introvert. I prefer not to be speaking. I prefer to, kind of bask in the group dynamics, uh, and let somebody else kind of like take the limelight, and just have a good time, right? I'm more of an introvert. Uh, when I'm in the position to be the extrovert, I will be the extrovert. I will, take charge. Um, I've talked about this story before where one of my marketing professors, she did the, personality test to see if you're like an A personality, B personality, right? A personalities were dominant, things like that. Akin to like the dope quiz that we have on Sales Manager Academy, um, where the A personality to be more akin to like the Eagle personality. And we took the assessment. She grabbed mine and she was like, huh, I wouldn't have pegged you as a type A personality. And I was like, why not? She said, well, it's not like you like you participate in the class, but you're not dominating the conversation. I was like, well, yeah, because you're the professor. I understand that in this environment, I am here to learn and I don't know everything. You have more experience in this field, not just through research and theory, but also through practice based off your background. So I defer to you in this environment. And where I am confident and I do have the experience, yes, I will share or I will ask questions. But there's no point in being a dominant personality when I know for sure that you have more knowledge and more experience in this space. Um, and so, okay, makes sense. So it was kind of, understanding those dynamics. Um, and right now you have to go through and you have to spend time understanding like what's going on. Because once again, the communication style that you have with your people right now is super, super important because they're all going to be taking all this information in different ways. Some are going to be like, hey, it doesn't matter, just whatever. What happens in the world doesn't affect my world. And it's like, no. Do you complain about egg prices? Yes. Have you been complaining about gas prices going up? Right? Yes. Okay. So it does affect you. What goes on in the world affects you. So when you have less customers coming into the store, is that going to affect you? Because now you don't have as many people coming through to be able to experience and sell and offer those services and products to. Yeah, right. Oh, thanks for love, Emmy. um, it's one of those where it is going to be tough. You have to have those conversations with your people, and you have to let them know um, that it's not going to be the end of the world. It is something where we're going to have to put in a lot more work. Um, and we're going to have to assist a lot more people, right? Um, in different ways. So as a leader, right now, one of your biggest things is understanding what your conversation style is, what your leadership style is, and the leadership style, conversation style of the people on your teams. For a district manager, it means you, your local leaders, and then also your salespeople. Because it shouldn't be just your local leaders, your store leaders, right? Whether it's store managers, assistant manager, having the conversations with their team. They need to hear it from you. Okay. It would be better to do it in person, but if you need to do it through, a group call, hey, I get it. Um, right. I've had districts, markets that were completely spread apart where I couldn't do everything, where I've had to have regional phone calls because I had to, be in contact with locations that were 6, 8 hours apart from each other. I get it. I understand where that comes from. But you have to be having those conversations right now. This is just, once again, tip of the iceberg. I really hope, I really wish that it ends up being a late April Fool's joke or that, members of Congress, members of the House, um, get their act together and fucking grow a spine, right? And do what they're supposed to because they hold the power of the purse. Um, and they need to bring checks and balances. Uh, because it's going to be a world of hurt. Um, because once again, right, it's going to affect everything. If you have new locations that you were expecting to build out, new white spaces, without knowing what the cost of goods are going to be currently, a lot of those, I guarantee you, are going to be postponed. Knowing the fact that consumerism is going to be down, a lot of those options are going to be postponed and looked at, is this really something that's necessary to do right now? Like right now, it's going to be one of those times where it's going to be interesting to see what goes on. But you as a leader need to spend time focusing on what's important and communicating to your team what needs to happen. Because once again, when consumerism is down, it means there's pauses on a lot of different projects. Okay. Because they want to wait and see, wait it out. So it doesn't just affect you. It affects, for instance, the people that were going to be doing the construction on the new white spaces. It affects the vendors that you're going to buy a lot of the material from that you needed for merchandising, for all this different things. And then also if those costs of goods go up, that means you're going to be moving less of those goods to your average consumer, your average customer. So that's where the question becomes like, you don't know what's going to happen. We don't know yet because everybody still needs to figure things out. Uh, because, for instance, most of your computer components aren't manufactured in one country. Your phone components aren't manufactured in one country. So, what does that mean? How does it affect everything? Um, the clothes that you buy, majority of them aren't made here in the US, whether you guys believe it or not, right? Uh, they might be designed in the US, they might be, whatever here in the US, but they're not manufactured and produced here. Uh, they're really great tailors, don't get me wrong, here in the US. I've probably met some of the best outside of the country. Uh, like, for instance, Indian tailors are probably some of the best out there. I've met some that, from Pakistan um, that make amazing clothes uh, and have customers, in different parts of the world. And they'll do handmade, custom fabrics, um, custom designs at great price points. So it's one of those things, right? That's kind of like a little bit of a tangent, but those costs are going to go up. It's not going to be like it was before. For you and your teams, having that knowing the communication style that you need to have with your teams in these times is super important. In regular normal times, it's very important because it allows you to have really great communication. Because the way that people receive and interpret information is different from individual to individual. You can have a group conversation. Everybody's going to take something different away. So you need to understand how to have those conversations to different styles, different personalities, so that they'll take the most pertinent information with them. That also means that during times of confusion, times when people don't understand what's going on or what to expect next, it is more important to have those conversations and understand the conversation styles so that you are able to communicate properly, put people at ease, and be able to train and develop more, um, those individuals better, right? In a more pertinent way. So it is going to be interesting. It's going to see how things unfold. Obviously, things are going to play out a little bit different over the weekend. Monday, I expect to be more of a bloodbath unless things are called off or postponed. Because listen, the fucking charts that they put out, it's been on the news everywhere. AI is a tool to be used. It is not the complete source of accurate information. It does get a lot of things incorrect. Um, you would be surprised at the amount of information it can get incorrect, right? And that's where everybody that saw those numbers who is a statistician, a coder, or plays around with AI and has done those, understand that those numbers look one, vaguely very familiar, two, very inaccurate, and three, they could find the prompts that were used to create that scenario. So there's nothing wrong with having trade deficits with other countries. Not everybody, I will reiterate this, not every country is rich enough to purchase everything from the US. The US does not make everything in the world, nor does the US have every single material, raw material needed to supply the rest of the world. And keep in mind, the US population is about 350, 360, it's under 370 million people, right? The global population is about 8 billion people. So we are less than 1% of the global population. There's no way in hell that the US would be able to supply the entire world with anything if we can barely supply the US population with what we have. So keep that in mind. Um, I will leave it at that with the conversation. Once again, we are going to be in a world of hurt for the foreseeable future. As a leader, have those conversations with your people, know your conversation styles. If you have questions, if you're not sure what your leadership style is, what's type of conversation styles you should have with your teams, go to the website. I'll leave the link in the bio or in the description, depending on where you're watching it. And that will allow you to take the quiz. It's very simple, it's straightforward. It will take a couple of minutes, right? 2 to 5 minutes, depending on you more than anything. It's just figuring out what words describe you the most. Um, and you'll get the information. As a bonus, you also get additional guides to help you with the conversation styles of the different personalities that you have. So you can take it and you can have your teams take it. You'll get your results right away. They're emailed to you directly, as well as the guides so that you have better understanding how to have your conversation styles. Um, and same thing with your leaders, right? Your local leaders. Have them take it as well. Have them take it with their teams. That way, people have a better understanding of what conversation styles I should have with my teams that are going to be most effective. And that's going to go a long way. So I'll leave it at that, guys. Keep an eye out. If you have any questions, any comments, let me know. As always, appreciate y'all for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one.